Hello, how are you? And welcome back.
Hi.
I've just retracted that. You haven't seen that. But today we're going to do the big what are my favourite books of 2021? What are the books that killed me, distraught me, hung over me, all of the above? I read a whopping 150 books this year, which is slightly worrying, but I read some really good books and I somehow cut down what are my favourite books of this year to 7 books. I don't know how. Coming in at number 7 is The Poppy War by RF1. This is kind of a cop-out, but I actually want to do the trilogy in number 7. So it's actually 3 books in number 7, but don't tell anyone. It's still 7 books is still going to be in the title. It's a high fantasy book that tore at my heart and it was just phenomenal. Main character Rin goes off to this school to learn about fighting techniques and she has this magical power that she starts to develop. The book talks a lot about political standpoints, war, killing, and it's really visual. Your favourite characters could die at any point in this trilogy, which is what I love in a book because it's unexpected. So many books are so expected and you expect the main character to live. You don't know who is going to live and who is going to die in this book series, which is why I love it so much. And it was written so amazingly. The main character Rin, you can't help but not feel so much for her. There's so many points where she made the most terrible decisions over her whole life. Fuck the sun, I can't see. But I feel like her decisions, even though some of them were absolutely horrendous, they made her more human, which I think is a really phenomenal thing an author can do, especially in a high fantasy book. Because in high fantasy books, it's really hard to relate to the main character because they're goddamn ninjas. In our ordinary lives, we're not ninjas. We're just, gardeners. It comes in at number 7. Truly deserves it. Next book. Book number 6 in this list is a book I read early on in this year. I think I read it in January. And it is The Invisible Life of Addie by V. Schwab. The book was so good. I loved the theme of mortality. This cover is absolutely stunning. And this is absolutely stunning. It's just stunning. The whole concept, the whole book is just so beautifully written. So the main character, Addie LaRue, makes a deal with the devil. She wants to live forever. Everyone who meets her and turns away and can't see her anymore forgets her. So she's immortal with the cost of no one remembering her. She can't make lasting relationships because no one remembers her. They all forget her. And then this one guy, Henry, he remembers her. He turns around, he looks back, Addie, you're still there? And she's like, whoa, you remember me? Let's fall in love. The theme of mortality is something I haven't read about a lot. I hope it's talked about more in books because it's phenomenal. I really love it. Coming in at number 5 is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This book is a romance smutty book and this is the last book in the sister trilogy, and the whole trilogy I loved, but particularly this book and the second book, Take a Hint, Danny Brown. They were a joy to read and I read them in summertime, so it really had the vibes of summer smut. That sounds weird. She's sunshine, he's serious. That's basically the book. But the guy in this, Jacob, is the funniest guy. Eve Brown, everything's going wrong in her life. She doesn't have a job. She goes to this B&B of Jacob's and goes for an interview for the bakery, I think. There's so many incidents that happen, but it's just phenomenal. This whole trilogy, I really recommend. It's so funny. The characters are so witty and you can't help but like them because they're so funny and they're relatable. I love it. Number 4 is a book that made me cry a lot, and it is A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. And by God, this book really, I really can't see. It was such an emotional book for me. I cried, I think, every page. I can't really remember what it's about. It was just the most distraughting book I've ever read in my whole life. Sadness emitting from every page. Number 3 is the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. And this is also another cop-out because that series has 6 books in one. But this series started off my smutty romance books. It's a college sports romance, enemies to lovers, for the first book anyways. I will say if I had to pick my favourite book, I'd probably pick the first one in the Off-Campus series because I usually love first books in a series for some reason. I don't know why. Coming in second place is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book I read recently. She wrote this book with love, with heart, with everything she had, and I felt it and it was amazing. Evelyn Hugo, she's a Hollywood actress. She went through so many events in her life and she went through 7 husbands. Monique Grant is a reporter for this magazine and she basically interviews Evelyn Hugo about her life, about her 7 husbands. and she goes through what those 7 husbands did for her. Like, the first one helped her actually go into Hollywood, and then from then on it just picked up so much how Hollywood affected her, how these husbands affected her, how being in the limelight affected her. It was so amazing, gripping, spellboundingly amazing. It did make me cry a small bit. I was crying, and then we got to the plot twist. There is a massive plot twist in this book. I didn't see it coming, but I was crying-ish slightly before that plot twist. And then the plot twist came, and then, I don't know, that was crazy. I stopped crying. What is my number 1 favorite book of this year? Drum roll, please. A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. If I could bow down for this book, I would, but I'm sitting down. This book gave me a massive book hangover, and this is the only book this year that gave me a book hangover, so I feel like it had to win because it was phenomenal. This is the second book after For Blood and Ash. It's an enemies to lovers high fantasy. This is real enemies. This is dagger to throat enemies. These books too always have a fantastic ending, making you want to read more. They were all my favorite books of this year. There's so many amazing books that I should have put in, but I had to be cutthroat. Peace out.